All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's overview. As you know, soon you guys will be heading to Jamaica for the Burns destination wedding. And because travel has changed so much with COVID, I just want to kind of take the time and let me admit everyone. Sorry, guys. All right, we have a couple more people joining. So folks, thanks for joining today. But the purpose of this webinar is really just to take some time to go over the travel requirements around COVID testing and all, getting in and out of Jamaica. Jamaica has made some changes for the better. They used to have a visa requirement, which is no longer required, which is a good thing. All right, so let's just kind of get started. So a couple of things I'm going to start with, go over your passport reminder, talk about travel documents. I'll be resending some of those. I've sent some out to many of you already, but I'll probably resend them out again just to make sure you have them. And then if you haven't already done so, I'll talk about if I only did your room only, I do need your flight information by April 1st so I can set up your transfers. And then we're going to talk about departure requirements. Specifically, the Jamaica travel authorization is no longer required, but we're going to talk about the COVID test, which is required. And then we're also going to look at the return requirements coming to returning back to the US, the COVID testing on site. All right. So what's important to remember, I know you're probably, some of you may be avid travelers, you're used to traveling, but considering all things that's happening now economically and from a pandemic perspective, you know, I'd suggest that you plan ahead. Don't wait till the last minute to do anything. So let's jump right into it, talk about passports and travel docs. So the first tip I'm gonna give you is to please check your passport expiration date. All right, so passports are required for Jamaica and your passport expiration date cannot be less than 6 months beyond the travel date. So it has to be more than 6 months beyond the travel date. All right, if it's less, they're not gonna let you travel. So you wanna make sure you check your passport as well as your passport expiration date. Your travel documents, everyone's vacation packages has been paid in full. You should have received your travel docs from you. Some may have not. I'll be going through that list in the next week or so and resending out all travel docs again. But check your email. You'll need to take those documents with you. Check with your airline website for details on luggage requirements. Each airline is different in terms of costs associated with luggage. All right. So you want to make sure you check with that before you get to the airport. It is my recommendation that you arrive at least 3 hours in advance to the airport, just because you guys are going around a time where some people are going to be on spring break and it's going to be pretty busy, and especially in your major airports like Atlanta. So you want to make sure you give yourself plenty of time so that you don't miss your flight. And they are checking all documents. So when I was in Jamaica last year, they would literally looking for your tests. At the time, it was a visa requirement, passport. They were making sure everything was aligned. So you may need those 3 hours, unfortunately. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about pre-departure. So next tip, plan your pre-departure COVID test as soon as you can. Okay. So it is required that you complete your COVID PCR test 72 hours prior to departure. So make sure it's 72 hours prior to departure. All right. If you're going to do that with that test, make sure that you do the rapid test if you can, so you can get your test results back pretty quickly. Knowing that, your rapid test, you want to make sure that to get a rapid test, what you need to do is when you go online to schedule your COVID test, just tell them you've been exposed. That way it'll give you the option for that rapid test to pop up. All right. Otherwise, you may not get the regular test back in enough time. All right. So that's just a trick to work the system. All right. So you can get your COVID test scheduled. All right. Take a printout of your results and be prepared to show them at the airport. Okay, they're gonna need that at check-in. So that's very important when it comes to your test. Any questions about the COVID test?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Next, returning to the US. Plan your pre-departure COVID, your post-departure, I should say, test upon arrival in Jamaica. So once you check in on site at the Grand Lady Palladium, you want to ask them, how do you schedule your PCR or antigen test? All right. You need a negative test 24 hours prior to boarding, not 25 hours, but 24 hours prior to boarding. So you want to make sure you know what time your departure time is so that you can schedule that COVID test 24 hours prior to you actually boarding the plane. Again, print it. Sometimes you can't print in those countries, so they'll email you results. It's fine. You can have it on your phone, but you got to have that test prior to departure. Okay. So that's really all I had to share. What I'm going to do now in the chat, I am going to provide you with a link to Actually, did I go to the right place? I don't know if you got the right test or not. But if you can't get that link, I'll email it. It's in your email. But that's the link to how much the test costs, the antigen test costs, and the PCR test, and the hours of service. So in Jamaica, they do it from 9 to 5 is what time they do it. And it tells you how much it is on the in the document. Also, you want to make sure you understand the quarantine in case something happens. Hopefully you won't need to quarantine, but in case you need to quarantine, that information is also listed in that document. I'm not going to read through all of that, but after you read through it, you have questions, you can email me or call me. I'm also going to place a link here in the chat, everyone. That is just basic information from the embassy around the country-specific requirements of entry into Jamaica. I just think it's important that you guys understand that. And then last but not least, in the chat, I'm also going to place a link to the Jamaica Tourist Board, just kind of covering everything I've already covered. But if you have questions, that information is there for you. All right. Any questions about anything I've shared? I know this is a quick session. We'll only have a couple more minutes and then I'll close out. For those of you who are just joining, I think someone just joined. What I'll do is I'll send out the recording so you'll have access to the recording.
So in the reverse round, I found one of the neighborhoods.
Someone's breaking up pretty bad. If you'd like, you can give me a call. If you can't get your questions answered now, my number's on the screen. I'll be out of the office actually for this evening, but you can give me a call tomorrow. And this recording will be made available for everyone. All right. Any other questions before I go, just in case?
No, ma'am, you pretty much answered everything.
Okay, great. This recording will be available. Like I stated, if you have questions about anything I've discussed, you can give me a call. I'll be out of the office for the rest of this evening, but you guys can hit me up tomorrow. You know how to get in contact with me. All right, that's all I have.
Okay, have a good night.
All right, have a good evening.
You too.